Testing. It works when I press the button.
Yeah, the green.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was? It was
Yeah.
red when you...
Yeah, it was on loud, whether it was green or...
Okay, try to...
Got it.
Good morning and welcome to the March 26th meeting of the City Utilities Committee. I am Councilmember Antonio Lewis, Chair of the committee. I'm joined by committees from my right, Councilmember Byron Amos, Councilmember Howard Shook. To my left, Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda? Been moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Shook and second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Please open the vote, Mr. Johnson.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes? It's been moved, and I'll second. Properly seconded by Mr. Byron Amos, Councilmember Amos. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. Moved by Councilmember Shook, seconded by Councilmember Amos.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes have been approved.
I have one speaker signed up today, Miss Adrienne Coleman Tyler.
Good morning. My name is Adrienne Coleman Tyler, and I'm here today to again speak to Atlanta Public Access Television. As of today, the channel has been in black for 295 days. Next week will be 10 months. Based on council's calendar, you go on break until April the 15th and you come back. And even if you introduce legislation next, on April the 15th when you come back, the channel will be in black for a year. okay? There's no way unless you take immediate action to do something. In that year, we haven't heard anything publicly from this. So today, I want to speak to, of course, public access is under the purview of city utilities. However, the cable franchise agreement is made, it's an agreement for the public. Our relationship with this cable company or any franchisee that is extracting or using our right-of-ways of public space to extract revenue, and we have this agreement. It is a trust with the public. And here we are, and the public access channel is out. There's not been one public hearing. The mayor's office hasn't offered up anything as to why it was put in black. I look at the previous mayors, Jackson, Young, Campbell, Franklin, Reed, Franklin. Yes, the budget for public access was reduced and it fluctuated. You know, in 1994, Atlanta City Council and the mayor funded the cable, the public access center, $1 million to build the studios. It funded it with a budget of $600,000 annually. I mean, so here we are down to the most recent funding of $180,000 annually. So I'm looking at this and I'm trying to understand the why. But let's look at the procurement process, which I think is the Achilles heel for the city of Atlanta. We know procurement is has had a dark side to it. And I think this procurement has a very dark side. August 25th, 2023, procurement sent to Austin Wagner, Deputy Chief of Staff, saying we have gone through the procurement process for the community media and we have established, we have 3 bidders who were responsive to this, and asked him to, now it's on you. You make the decision to decide who that was. For months after that, procurement, Mitzi Sims, Ms. Farmer, was communicating with Deputy Chief of Staff Austin Wagner, who told him, hey, we're trying to get this to council before September the 5th, before Comcast can take the channel back. Austin Wagner, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. So here we are, 10 months later, nothing, no explanation. I want to read November the 6th, months after, they've missed the September timeline to try to mitigate the risk for Comcast. Ms. Sims, Ms. Danica Farmer, category manager. She's asking, I'm following up with you, Austin, regarding the community media project. Please let us know where the project is and let us know if we can assist you. Austin Wagner responds, I'm working on it today or tomorrow. Thanks. November 17th, Mitzi Sims, just following up, Austin, to see if there is an update of yet. No update. November, Austin Wagner comes before the Utilities Committee and says that the procurement is going to close within 36 hours. It didn't happen. December the 11th, he emails the chief procurement officer to tell him, oh, we're going in a different direction. We're going to do a different strategic review for this procurement. No questions. And here we are, council. All we've asked for is, where's the administration? Why can't they come now and tell us, you and the public, what happened? I think why is that too big of an ask? You took it. Why can't they come and explain to you what happened? Again, I will offer myself, I'll sit here and wait. I want Austin Wagner or somebody from the administration to come in and explain to the public and you what happened. Why is that too much to ask? And Mr. Chair, I thank you.
Ms. Tyler, I want to say I appreciate you, and you went over a little bit. We are truly with you. We are working with Mr. Wagner in the mayor's office to set up a date for this. It will happen after our first public hearing. We'll be working on it after that. So thank you again for coming down. As you know, it's been a year since this happened. We're trying to get that going. I appreciate you.
This takes us to our consent agenda, section F, communications, item number 1, 24C 5048, a communication from council members Byron Amos, District 3, and Jason Dozier, District 4, appointing Mr. Jared Evans to serve as a member of the Solid Waste Appeals Board. This appointment is for a term of 4 years.
Been moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Amos. Mr. Jarrett.
Good morning, members of the City Utilities Committee. First, thank you, District 3 and District 4 council members for nominating me to serve on this important board. And just quickly, I'll say that I think I have a skill set that will be beneficial for this newly established board. It's going to quickly need to pick and choose some fair and functional rules for it to conduct its business so that it can help clear its backlog of cases that it has. I have extensive experience staffing deliberative bodies like City Council, and before that, the State Senate, and I've got a good working knowledge of parliamentary procedures so that we can make those rules fair for everybody. I've got familiarity with the solid waste services. I served as the staff analyst for the City Utilities Committee for several years, so I have a good working knowledge of the solid waste issues. And then lastly, just I'm a resident of the city, a resident of District 4, a consumer of the solid waste services, so I'm very interested in establishing a fair process for these appeals and providing the procedural rights for the appellants to settle these matters quickly. So thank you for your consideration.
Any questions from my colleagues? It's been moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable. Item number 2, 24C5049, a communication from council members Dustin Hillis, District 9, and Andrea L. Boone, District 10, appointing Mr. Anthony Wilson II to serve as a member of the Solid Waste Appeals Board. This appointment is for a term of 4 years. Mr. Wilson was unable to attend. He had a schedule conflict, so the requested motion is to hold this paper.
Moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. This item is held in committee.
Please proceed.
To Section D, ordinance for first reading, item number 3, 24O1163. An ordinance by City Utilities Committee waiving Part 2, Code of Ordinance, General Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 10, Procurement Real Estate Code, Division 4 of the Atlanta City Code, to ratify services rendered in connection with Agreement FC 8919, Annual Contract for Security Guard Services with Thorpe Building Services, Inc., All-in-One Security Services Incorporated, a joint venture beginning March 14, 2024, through the execution of the Fifth Amendment to authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the Fifth Amendment to the agreement on behalf of the Departments of Watershed Management, Public Works, and Transportation to extend the term of the agreement for a period of 90 days, retroactively effective March 14, 2024 through June 12, 2024, in amount not to exceed $2,223,540.00. All contract work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. This takes us to our regular agenda item, Section H, ordinance for second reading. Item number 4, 24O1133, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing Chief Financial Officer to amend the FY 2024 Series 2021 Water and Wastewater Commercial Paper Notes budget in amount of $478,753.00 to transfer funds for watershed reserves for appropriations to add funds to the Whittier Mill Sanitary Sewer Improvements Project and for other purposes.
Moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Amos, seconded by Councilmember Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. Item is favorable. Mr. Chair, the department requests to take item 8, as since it was the companion paper of item number 4. May I sound that caption?
Please do.
Section I, resolutions, item number 8, 24R3372, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor as designated to execute an agreement for IFB DWM CON 2310-1240117 Whittier Mill Sanitary Sewer Improvements with Integral Municipal Services Corporations Rockdale Pipeline Incorporated joint venture on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management for a term of 1 year with no renewal terms in the amount not to exceed $10,478,753.0. All contract will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Do we have anything from the department?
Hey, good morning, Chairman Lewis, Council Members Makita Brown, and Commissioner for Department of Watershed Management. Purpose of this legislation is to request authorization to award the Whittier Mill sanitary sewer improvements to Integral Municipal Services Incorporated and Rockdale Pipeline joint venture for the amount and term requested. Whittier Mill is one of Atlanta's oldest neighborhoods, situated along the Chattahoochee River in District 9. It was established in the 1890s. The community is currently served by a deteriorating network of grapevine sewers that are frequently prone to sewer overflows and backups, which pose a threat to health and safety of the residents. The improvements will construct over 5,000 linear feet of new gravity public sewers to properly upgrade and serve the community. Of course, to reduce sewer spills and eliminate the historical blockages and conditions of the system. Department of Watershed Management issued an IFB solicitation to retain a general contractor to complete the proposed scope of work. We received 2 responsive bidders and recommended the recommended vendor to be selected per the evaluation process. Subject to your questions, that completes my remarks.
It's been moved by Councilmember Amos, second by Councilmember Shook. Are there any questions? I apologize. Any questions from my colleagues? Moved by Councilmember Amos, second by Councilmember Shook. Mr. Johnson, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This takes us back to Section H, ordinance for second reading, item number 5, 24-01134, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to execute the Fourth Amendment to agreement listed herein, annual contract for municipal solid waste with Republic Services of Georgia Limited Partnership and Genesis Testing Services Incorporated, doing business as 3GNL joint venture, on behalf of the Department of Public Works to authorize a payment of a rate of $47.51 per ton base rate for municipal solid waste disposal services retroactively effective March 1st, 2024. All contract will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes.
Anything from the department?
Hey, good morning, Chairman Lewis and committee members. No, just I wanted to add, to provide a little context behind this rate increase. We're going from $43.19 to $47.51, which is an increase of about $4.30, a little bit above $4.30. Their basis to increase the fees is the rising cost of goods and operating costs. The CPI is currently at 5.3%, and they have also experienced additional costs with operating one of their transfer stations that's owned by the city of East Point, but operated by Republic Services. That is the basis for their requested increase. Happy to address any questions if you have any.
Councilmember Shook.
Thank you. So, Commissioner, could you let us know what, if any, intermediate or long-term planning the department is doing that could result in us having options to, kind of get off this elevator, which is going to do nothing but keep going up?
So that's a great question, Councilman Shook. We're really in a unique situation is that our landfills, as you know, have been deactivated. So the only options that we have is to use a transfer station. There are very few transfer stations in the metro area within our area of service. So therefore, the pricing is not as competitive as we would like for it to be. As far as options for alternative methods to dispose of solid waste, we're currently working with Watershed, and I'll let Commissioner Browning give an overview when appropriate of technology that's available that may be able to assist us with disposing of solid waste, which would be a game changer, would have a huge impact on our ability to dispose of waste and a huge reduction in costs. So that is one option that we have available to us immediately.
Well, I mean, the two options you just mentioned have both been looked at by previous councils. They're both horrible, horrible political choices. But that said, it may be time to review the possibility of establishing, you know, a quadrant system of transfer stations in city limits. I don't know. I mean, that's not going to be a fun conversation, but this path that we're on is no fun either. Are you anticipating asking for a solid waste fee increase to accommodate this increase?
So the solid waste fee increase will not be based on this particular request. And I'll be happy to go over the basis behind today's report that involves solid waste fees, but it does not involve this particular request directly. But the anticipated CPI, the rise in the CPI, has been considered in a most recent study.
I mean, if I was Republic, I'd ask for 67 a ton, and we'd pay it, wouldn't we?
I can't tell you we would pay it immediately, but I hear what you're saying, that we are in a very vulnerable situation, and we do need to look at our alternatives. I think that you'll be pleased with the solution that Commissioner Browning has on the table. I'm not sure if this is the same idea as that has been vetted in the past, but there are limited opportunities. So as you mentioned, if the council is asking for the department to look at alternatives as far as the disposal of waste or creating transfer stations within the city, we're more than happy to conduct a study and to identify those areas.
The word happy will have nothing to do with the resulting conversation. I'll look forward to hearing more about the option that you've just mentioned, and I look forward to diving into this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shook. Any other questions from my colleagues? Move approval. Second by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. Moved by Councilmember Lewis. Please open the vote. Mr. Johnson, please.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Item number 6, 24-01135. Ordinance by City Utility Committee authorizing the mayor as designee to execute the Second Amendment to the ground lease agreement with NCPPCS MPL 27 Year Sites Tower Holdings, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, by and through CCATT, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, its attorney in fact, for the lease of certain city-owned property having an address of 2630 Ridgewood Road and located in land lot 231 of the 17th District of Fulton County, Georgia. Said lease amendment being for the purpose of increasing the area of the lease premises, waiving the requirements of Section 2-1547 of Article 10, the Procurement and Real Estate Code, and for other purposes.
Mr. John, before you actually speak, I want to just make sure we set a protocol that we tell our name, our title, and our department before. So anything from the department.
Yes, sir. Chairman Lewis, members of the committee, good morning. Marcus Butts, Department of Watershed Management, Office of Engineering Services. The purpose of this legislation is to authorize a second amendment to the ground lease for purposes of expanding the leased premises. The City of Atlanta Department of Watershed Management entered into a lease with AT&T, who has cell tower assets on one of our water tank sites located at 2630 Ridgewood Road. AT&T is desirous of allowing DISH to co-locate on the site. In order to do so, AT&T is asking to expand its footprint by 78 square feet. So to accommodate the additional ground lease area. The rent that we will be charging then will increase to $28,362.82 and will continue to escalate at 3% annually. That concludes my remarks. I'm available for any questions.
And in the notes, it says that the rent will increase to $28K?
I'm sorry, that rent will increase, the rent increase will now be, the current rent is $25,200. It will increase to $28,362.82.
So a little bit over $28K. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything from Mr. Shook?
And is that part of the Care and Conserve funding stream, that revenue?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry.
Councilman Shook, I'm not sure where the funds are earmarked, but we'll confirm. We can confirm where they go.
Thank you.
Yes.
As a follow-up on that one, how long have we been collecting the money if we don't know where it's going?
We entered into this lease just about 2020, so not quite 5 years.
And so we don't know where.
Again,
I apologize.
budgetary-wise, I need to just confirm where it's being earmarked
Gotcha.
in our operating budget, and I'll get that for you.
Okay, 1.6 million. All right, been moved by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Lewis. Please open the vote. It looks like someone else has an answer behind this.
I was just going to comment. Jonathan Williams.
Yes, sir.
Office of Finance, Department of Watershed Management. I believe that's being booked to other revenue for us, but I will confirm. I don't believe it's going directly to Care and Conserve, but we will get that answer for you.
$300-something thousand a year.
As I said, I believe it's going to our other revenue category.
Okay. All right, been moved by Councilmember Westmoreland, second by Councilmember Lewis. Please open the vote. We look forward to finding out where the $1.6 million is.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. This takes us back to Section I, resolutions. Item number 724R3371, a resolution by City Utilities Committee authorizing the mayor as needed to execute a consent order with the Environmental Protection Division, Department of Natural Resources of the state of Georgia, and to authorize payment pursuant to consent order in the amount of $163,056.81 to revolve permit compliance violations, including unpermitted discharges, effluent permit limit exceedances, and major spills from July 2022 through June 2023. All amounts due under the consent order will be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Commissioner Browning.
Hey, good morning, Chairman Lewis, Council Members Makita Browning, Commissioner for Watershed. Purposes is to execute an annual consent order with the Georgia Environmental Protection Division and authorize payment for the requested amount and to resolve permit violations that occurred at our water reclamation centers and our CSO facilities for the period of July 2022 through June 2023. From July 2022 through June 2023, the city experienced multiple incidents that resulted in noncompliance, major spills, outfall spills, and permit effluent limit exceedances, including total suspended solids, dissolved oxygen, total phosphorus, fecal coliform, and ammonia nitrogen at various facilities. The majority of the effluent permit limit exceedances were caused by hydraulic overload and wet weather events and return to normal conditions, and several violations were the result of the introduction of an illicit substance into the R.M. Clayton facility that caused an upset at the facility, and subsequent effluent limit exceedances. On June 5th, 2023, the city provided EPD an illicit discharge plan of action to address the source of the upset, mitigate impacts to treatment facility, and more proactively identify and address unexpected influent illicit discharges that were coming into the facility. We conducted sampling in the collection system, conducted additional pretreatment facility inspections, added nutrients and bacteria to the treatment process to assist with operational functions and to allow the plant to regain compliance. The city was unable to identify a point source for illicit substance within the city proper and continues to update EPD regarding both proactive, preventative, and corrective measures to maintain compliance. Subject to your questions.
Anything? Councilmember Shook.
How many incidents are included here?
I don't have the number handy, Councilor Shook, but I can get that for you.
Okay, well, I mean, we have to pay it. That's
We
not
do.
paying it isn't an option, so I'll move approval. I would like to ask, not as a condition, but just because I'm interested, I'd like to know how many incidents are included in this report that they're charging us for.
Okay.
And if you could ask someone to put together a 10-year look back at both numbers of incidents and the total fine figures, I'd love to see that.
We can get that information to you.
Thank you.
Right.
And moving properly second, Mr. Johnson, please open the vote. Moved by Councilmember Shook, second by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. Mr. Chair, that concludes our legislative items for today.
Are there anything from my colleagues? So today we'll be a little different. We actually are adding a solid waste report, solid waste sanitary services, revenue sufficiency and cost of service report to the end of this meeting. So it's a little different than typical. And I may need a little help from our parliamentarian to make sure I'm doing this right. So there are no objections. We'll start this process now. Mr. Commissioner, I can tell this is a thick report. I think we need, I know transportation, they got a 15-minute rule. We won't keep that because Mr. Shook will be upset with me about this 15-minute rule today. But we're gonna try to keep 15-minute rules in the Department of Utilities as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Al Wiggins, Commissioner of Public Works. First, I'd like to offer my apologies. We intended to have this report to you a lot sooner than now, but the delay was for a very good reason. We spent a lot of time with the consultant, really asking questions, professionally challenging some of their theories, and they responded well. They were very attentive and gave us the time we need. And we worked with them up until a few days ago. And so that is the reason why we're just now getting the report in your hands. But as you know, DPW was tasked by the CUC to conduct a study to evaluate our solid waste fees and to explore program changes that may improve organizational efficiency and costs. In return, DPW engaged SES to conduct the study. SES also combined the scheduled revenue sufficiency analysis that we conduct every other year into this report. SES is here with us this morning to address any technical questions, should you have any. So the objective of the report is, one, to accomplish a revenue sufficiency analysis, as I mentioned earlier, to conduct a cost of services update, and an operational scenario analysis. I want to go a little bit further into the operational scenario analysis. This is where we were asked to look at potential operational efficiencies where we could identify ways to improve services or to reduce costs.
Excuse me, are you on a specific page? I apologize.
I'm sorry. Page 4. Page 5, my apologies. In Roman numerals.
And do you want it to go up here?
It would be helpful, but in order to keep it at 15 minutes, I was just going to hit the.
But we don't have to go 15 minutes today because Mr. Shook will be upset with me if we did 15 minutes today. If there any kind of way we can get this uploaded to the, if not, we may have to go through that process. Is there any kind of way we can get this uploaded to the projections, the PowerPoint? And council colleagues, is that helpful for you? And you said it's helpful for you, didn't you, Mr. Wiggins?
It's helpful, but not necessary. I could reference the pages.
So it's not necessary if we can't. It's not necessary, but it'll be helpful. All right, so we'll keep going. Thank you.
Okay. So part of the operational scenario analysis is we looked at a combination of 6 different areas to understand, what type of changes to the service as far as improving efficiency or reducing costs. So out of those 6 scenarios, we looked at reducing our current 5-day work week to a 4-day work week for solid waste and yard trimmings. We also looked at changing many of our traditional rear loader trucks to side loader vehicles. We looked at a weekly to bi-weekly yard trimming collection schedule. We looked at collecting our loose yard trimmings in automated side loaders. We also looked at a repair program for our trash carts, and we also looked at a program to reduce vehicle expenses. So I'll start with, thank you. So I'll start with our revenue adjustment recommendations. I know that's what we're really here for. The recommendation is that the rate be increased to 3.5% for FY25 and for subsequent years, 2%. The recommendation, again, is due to internal and external factors. The external factors included labor and asset disruptions. The internal factors include expenses exceeding revenues and not implementing recommended rate increases in prior years. So we had deferred maintenance, we had deferred purchases, a lot of things that we had to catch up on as a business. So that is part of the cost. I would like to add that this study does not include the recent cost of living adjustment. That came prior to the commencement of the study. It does not include the proposed relocation of the yard waste transfer station, and it does not include updating the solid waste master plan. Part of this process is that we looked at our services and we did a cost of services analysis. We looked at a total of 25 services. These services are combined between solid waste and special services. 10 services were evaluated in solid waste. 15 services were evaluated for our special services division. I'd like to make the distinction between the two very quickly if possible. Solid waste services is typically anything associated with our curbside collections program. And our special services are common good services, such as services involving street sweeping, the collection of public trash receptacles, right-of-way grass mowing, dead animal collection, code enforcement, special event cleanup, and many other services. The current cost, you'll see that the current cost for each category is itemized, and you will see the actual expense and the percentage. For solid waste, garbage collection is where the bulk of our expenses come from. For special services, you will see that street sweeping is where the bulk of our expenses come from. We're looking at almost $58 million in expenses for solid waste, and slightly over $22 million for common good services. And I'll pause here just in case you have any questions before we move forward. Okay. So again, the scenario analysis involves 6 options that we looked at. All of these options were within the solid waste division. We did not identify any immediate cost-saving potentials in our common good services area, but we feel comfortable that we have some viable options that we can present to you here this morning on the solid waste side. So the basis for anticipating our revenues cost escalation, SES used our cost escalation factors. You'll see this chart displayed a few times throughout the presentation. This chart displays the consumer price index for these particular areas that impact solid waste services and common good services. But salaries, we're looking at a 3.6% increase. Operations and maintenance, a little bit over 3.5%. The same for capital outlay. And for capital improvement, the engineering news record CPI cost index is slightly under 3.5%. I'm going to skip over a few pages. Some of the information is a little repetitive. Okay. So if you're following along, we're on page 8. So scenario analysis, this shows the base data that was used to conduct the report. If you don't mind, I would like to go back to page 6. You'll see the projections for our expenses exceeding revenue in approximately, I believe it was 2028. And this chart, this particular chart shows the projections without an increase in fees. So again, you'll see right around 2027, 2028, we begin having issues with operation and maintenance fees versus our cash in, also known as our revenue. All right, so here the recommended revenue is the recommended revenue adjustment plan. Again, this comes at 3.5%. This is for status quo. This is basically maintaining the services as is today. Of course, there are opportunities to maybe reduce the rate, but we could not do that without reducing the level of services, and we did not believe that that was an option for the council. You'll see with the charts displayed below that the revenues and the expenses are trending appropriately, hence the reason for the 3.5% increase and the 2% increase after. I would like to highlight that this consumer price index for trash collections is 5.3%. So the recommended increase is below that increase. You just heard me present a little bit earlier where Republic Services proposed a substantial increase. I believe it was 14%. All of our vendors that have involvement with providing solid waste services, their annual increases have been well over what we're proposing here. So I just would like to use that as a point of reference. Okay, I'd like to start with scenario A. And this is a transition from a 5-day to 4-day work week. The initial calculations from SES reveals that this may come at an additional cost of $785,000. However, we respectfully challenge this number. We believe that it could be done at on a cost neutral basis. Of course, we'll have to conduct a little bit more of an analysis. On SES's behalf, they are providing numbers that are very conservative. This is a cursory review, but we have data from our telematics program that lead us to believe that this could be done on a cost neutral basis. This would be helpful to our employees. They incur a substantial amount of expenses with fuel coming to work. This will also be helpful for recruitment purposes as well. All right, scenario B is to change our rear load to automated side load for solid waste and yard trimming collections. We're currently using our rear load trucks, our traditional rear load trucks. These are the trucks that have an operator and usually 2 workers on the back of the truck. We're looking at transitioning those trucks to an automated truck where you have an operator who operates the mechanical arm as well as a worker that will assist that driver. This is coming in So with this particular scenario, we're looking at both yard trimmings and MSW. The potential savings for both services collectively, we're looking at about $1.9 million collectively. So that's about $905,000 for each of the two services. Okay, scenario C is for us to convert our yard trimming collection services from weekly to biweekly. We are currently in a biweekly posture, but the study has revealed that there is a $2.5 million savings by remaining in this biweekly posture. We began this process during COVID when we had limited staffing and we had limited amount of vehicles. I will say that the average household, currently we're collecting up to 20 bags of yard debris. The average household does not need to dispose of 10 bags of yard debris on average. Those who do have the option of calling in for a bulk pickup. Each customer is allowed 12 bulk pickups annually, free of charge. So if they exceed the 20 bags, they're allowed to use the bulk pickup process. So we're very interested in continuing on this weekly posture. This $2.5 million savings is a substantial amount, and we have not seen any interruption in services by us remaining in this biweekly posture. Okay, scenario D is for us to convert our yard trimming collections into a container pickup. So basically, the trash containers that we use now for solid waste and recycling, this scenario involves putting yard waste in a can, and we will collect the yard waste from a can. This idea helps to improve our ability to predict staffing, fuel cost, the amount of time that's required to perform this particular service. As you know, during COVID, we had a pretty significant challenge with yard waste, and we sought the help of outside vendors through an RFP. We really didn't receive a lot of interest because we could not provide a lot of data about this service. It's really challenging to go from a household that has 20 bags of yard debris or a house that has a mound of yard debris that's not bagged that has to be collected by the same crew as well. So not only are the ergonomics brutal, it's really difficult to predict the amount of time because each stop requires a different level of effort. And I failed to mention, through this particular initiative, there will be an initial cost of approximately $4.7 million, and that cost comes from purchasing additional trash carts at $54 per cart. Subsequent of the initial year, this process will yield approximately, according to SES's calculations, about $450,000 annually. Again, we professionally, I don't want to use the word disagree. We feel like we could yield more savings. Again, SES's numbers are cursory and very conservative, but there is just a huge savings by us being able to predict and be able to set an established time for each stop. Okay, next we have cart repair and maintenance. We spend north of $1 million a year replacing carts. Not only, that is just the cost of purchasing the carts. This doesn't include staff time, field time, and other expenses associated with this service. We are required by ordinance to provide these carts upon request. We're having a significant challenge that is increasing year after year with residents requesting carts that they have called in as not serviceable, but the cart has not exceeded its life cycle, and oftentimes we go out and find out the cart isn't indeed serviceable. However, if there is any question, the cart is replaced. So there is an opportunity for us to look at this service as a whole and maybe scrutinize the replacement criteria for carts. But this particular scenario E, offers about $110,000 savings if we consult with a outside firm that will assist with replacing these carts and repairing the carts. I think this scenario also involves us doing some of the work internally as well. Okay, so the last scenario that was looked at was an opportunity to reduce our vehicle downtime. And this basically involves us reducing the average age of our vehicles from 8 years to 7 years. The anticipated savings is roughly about $8,000 per unit across the board. And I know that seems pretty substantial, but you have to take into consideration that we have a lot of heavy equipment. So just by that one option, we're looking at nearly $1.5 million in savings. Okay, so the scenario savings as a whole, considering all options, there's a potential savings of $5.2 million. We believe that this number is very conservative. I do want to reiterate the proposed 3.5% does not include these assumptions. So there is an opportunity to reduce operational costs. The 3.5% is for us to be able to increase, to maintain the current level of services. Okay, so moving on to our conclusion. As we mentioned earlier, we have the 3.5% increase. I just want to reiterate that this study does not include the recent cost of living adjustments, the relocation of the yard waste transfer station, and updating the solid waste master plan. But I think the question is, if we are asking for an increase, what is the ROI? We view this as a business, and I think each of you have seen the significant changes and improvement with our solid waste collection services, all of our curbside collection services. And we started this process without really having a good idea of who our customers are or the best way to get to them, because we didn't have the systems in place to be able to do that. That sounds very rudimentary for any business, but we didn't have that information available to make prudent decisions. We now have that information in place, and April will mark our 12-month time frame of us being able to collect data to conduct the proper analysis. And thanks to you, thanks to the mayor's office for your support and us being able to get the basic tools that we needed to make prudent decisions. We have also been able to recruit and retain professional staffing, which I don't need to tell you how critically important that is to be able to stabilize our workforce. We had a pretty significant challenge with that a few years ago. Our recruitment and retention is at an all-time high. Many of our leaders on our team have Lean Six Sigma certification. They have their green belts. This has helped me to build a team that thinks innovatively and understand lean processes that yield high productivity. We have installed a QA/QC team that has conducted several inspections, that has really reduced the cost of some of our contractual services because we have not paid for work that is not performed according to our standards or just not performed at all. We've established a customer care team. Many of you have used the high priority complaint process that we have. We have a whole team built around customer care. You receive a report each week as a follow-up to the complaints. I hope that that's working well for everyone, but that's another ROI. We also have a data analytics team. We actually have a team that is able to focus on data to help us to make better decisions. I just also want to reiterate that Atlanta continues to be a premier solid waste organization. We offer services well beyond our municipal counterparts. By the way, while there are increasing fees and reducing services. And I think we have a heck of a turnaround story. I give all credit to my team that's behind me. They work hard each and every day. It is important that they have the resources in order to be able to do their job. I'd like to also mention that APWA, which is our professional trade organization, recently did a spotlight in their March edition of their monthly magazine, and it featured Atlanta DPW and our recent successes. We don't manage by accolades or attaboys, but it is good to know that we have the respect and the consideration of our colleagues. And I just want to go back again. We had to stabilize this business during COVID when we had deferred maintenance, we had deferred purchases, and I believe our team, they did an excellent job providing a service with equipment that was aging, without the proper technology, without the proper staffing. Thanks to your support and the mayor's office support, we now have the tools to do the job. And I'd just like to say this. I think, someone looking at curbside collections externally views this as a simple operation. The act of picking up trash at curbside is not as challenging as being a professional organization that picks up trash at curbside. That's the equivalent of saying that Amazon only delivers boxes. There's a lot of logistics that goes into what we do. It requires different certifications for our drivers, different capacity for vehicles, different times for collections, different routes. We also have environmental restrictions, and that requires the proper equipment and staff to support the operation. I hope that you have seen the ROI on your investment in this department. We certainly aren't where we would like to be, but we are moving the needle in a positive direction, and we will continue to do so now that we have the infrastructure to sustain our successes. So anytime we talk about increase, I know the question is, what is the ROI? And hopefully this gives you a good summary. Before I conclude, I would like to give Director Davis, our finance director, and her team a huge round of applause. They spent an enormous amount of time with our consultants. They took impromptu calls from me, impromptu meetings. They had shifting priorities, but they were still able to work with SES engineers. And I'd like to thank SES engineers for their participation in this study, traveling here to Atlanta to address any technical questions that you may have. But I imagine that you may have some questions, and so I'll conclude the presentation and address any questions that you may have.
We've been joined by the Honorable Andrea Boone from the Atlanta SWATs. And if we have any questions from my colleagues, we'll open up. Councilmember Shook first.
All right, this is an enormous amount of material here, so I look forward to going through it. I know this has been difficult for you, and I just want to say how much I appreciate that. I appreciate the upcoming conversation, and I just want to say, and I know everyone up here would agree, that your frontline employees work phenomenally hard at a difficult job, and that's seen and appreciated every day by citizens. My one question for now is an overall process one. Is their work done, or do you have them working on any residual or follow-up analysis?
SCS's work is done. They have completed their portion of the study. The assumptions that SCS has modeled, we need to do a concentrated study to do a deeper dive and understanding what the numbers are a little bit more precisely for these assumptions. We also have other options that are available that we believe that will reduce cost savings in other areas of solid waste. So SES, yes, sir. SES work has been completed at this point.
That's all for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any of my other colleagues have any questions? Councilmember Andrea Boone, the Honorable Councilmember
Yes,
Andrea Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to say that I really gauge the productivity of your department by the citizens and the calls that I receive. We have received nothing but kudos over the past months. I rarely talk to your staff now. They are very responsive. So on behalf of all of the neighbors of MPUH, they are very grateful for you all's service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boone.
I have a few questions if none of my colleagues have any. And I was trying to find a page in here in the well put together file. Thank you, SCS, and thank you, Department of Public Works. I was trying to find the page that talked about the city of Atlanta raising ours to 3.5, but two other cities in the state of Georgia, 38% and 26%. Can you talk about that?
I glazed over that point. Was moving a little bit too quickly. So I believe it was Gwinnett County that was at 38%, and that was the city of Augusta, if I remember correctly. Augusta and Gwinnett County was at 14%. Neither one of those organizations provide services at the level of the city of Atlanta. 12 bulk pickups a year, weekly recycling collections, 20 bags of yard waste per collection day. And that's just really scratching the surfaces. So those are the tangibles, but you just don't see the intangibles that the city of Atlanta provides. But I don't think there's a organization that could rival the city of Atlanta. I think DeKalb County comes as a close second, but their model is not the same. They have their own landfills. They provide commercial sanitation collections, and so that's not really a fair comparison.
I think I was looking at I was amazed by us keeping us rising that amount and seeing them go up that high. And so I want to commend you and the team on that recommendation. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that I've said this since I got elected. The city of Atlanta does not work until we treat the trash man like the fireman. I've never said the policeman, I say the fireman. Because the support that we've given the fire department, we give your department, we can see the growth. And so I want to see, as a council person, when you talk about the raises, talk about when 2 years ago, you didn't have the equipment, you didn't have the knowledge or the staffing levels. As a council person who got elected, I feel good and I'm proud of the work that we've done to help us get the equipment, the knowledge, and the staffing levels up to where we're able to see these results. And so what I wanted to talk about is, did we switch from 311 calls, or do we now have both the biweekly and 311? So I've heard last night on the call, and you just mentioned something about biweekly pickups. And I know we typically had a 311 you have to call for your pickups.
Oh, okay. I think you were referring to the biweekly yard waste collections. So this scenario involves staying in a biweekly yard waste collection posture, which is about $2.5 million in savings. But I did mention that the average household, being that we collect 20 bags of yard waste each visit, the average household does not dispose of 10 bags of yard waste. And if they do, they have the option of using the bulk collection service free of charge if they've exceeded that 20 bag maximum.
So now both of them are options, not just to call 311. Because didn't we stop on the biweekly at one point, or
Yeah, so at one point, we were on a weekly collection schedule.
Okay.
Right? Not really sure where 311 came into play. I'll do some research to find out what was said on that call. But that was the discussion surrounding the biweekly collection schedule.
What was said was that to pick up our yard trimmings, we have to put in a order with 311.
Oh, okay, my
specifically.
apologies. My
Or we can
apologies. Yes.
put in 311 for
Yes.
the entire
Yes.
street.
Yes,
And
yes.
so have we switched now? That's what I was asking.
Yes, in order to request that service, you have to engage 311. I'm not sure if you can use our mobile app just yet. We were working on that. DC Anu?
Yeah, it's only for bulk collection.
Okay, so currently, it's only for 311 calls. We are looking at other alternatives that will allow us to provide this service by mobile app or through a portal on our website. Again, that process is very complicated. Is the reason that we can't just use a basic system. There are a lot of steps, which, by the way, we're looking at. We've mapped out these processes. We've identified ways that we can reduce time and costs. But I will say, even without revising the process maps, the timeliness of collections, we are where we committed to be at the time, and oftentimes we get there before the expected.
And it's a real thing. So I'll tell you that my district looks better because of it and because of you picking up. And I appreciate y'all for riding through as much as possible. The tires on Peg Road, I don't know how you did it. I don't know, but we appreciate you for making our community look a little bit better. Thank you to the people of the employees in the Department of Public Works. And once again, I'll end by saying the city of Atlanta will work even better the moment we treat the trash man like the fireman. So that means that the department needs the same support. We need the same votes that we get for the firemen when the trash man is asking for a livable adjustment. That's what we need to do. I appreciate you again, sir.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'd just like to say we appreciate your support, we feel your support, and we hope that you see the ROI on your investment. Thank you.
Are there any comments or anything? Councilmember Boone has something for you, Commissioner.
Last question. The graffiti, is that up under you yet, the graffiti removal?
Not just of yet. We're in discussion with ATL DOT.
So it's still under them?
Currently, yes, but
okay, thank you.
Any day now, we will transition that service over to the
Please let
Department
us
of
know.
Public
That's
Works.
very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wiggins. Question and comment. And I guess I go on record as saying, but thank you for everything you and your department would do. Glad to hear that 3.5 increase would be the floor. I don't think it is enough. So I go on record as saying that. I understand the time frame of the scope of service for the contract, but this 3.5 with these three things that are not included are major, especially when you talk about the solid waste master plan. Solid waste fees has been detrimental to my senior community being sold on the courthouse steps. So any plan that we have that continues us to pay those, to take away that threat for my senior community is definitely a plus. And then even up on the scenario B, talking about turning 75% of the fleet into assisted and one person, that means 25% of the city will still probably use the rear loader. I think it's probably more than that, and it'll be more wear and tear on that one person. You think about my district, don't have driveways, and we're not gonna send that automatic arm between cars to pick up cans. So I'm glad you're gonna do a more in-depth thing to bring back something to really base your 25 budget off of, and I believe that 3.5 probably will be higher once you finish your in-depth investigation.
So some time ago, we actually conducted a study and we canvassed the city to determine which roads could be canvassed through the ASL. I think that number was a little bit above 80%, if I remember, DC News. But 75% was based on our ability to purchase the vehicles based on our vehicle replacement plan and our allocated funds to be able to make the purchase. But I don't want to lose the opportunity to explain that the ASLs also help to reduce the fees for workers' comp injuries the ergonomics of doing the work, I've said it 1,000 times, it's just brutal. So any opportunities that we could automate our services, we look for those opportunities. There's a lot of questions about, employees that are displaced. We have not had that issue, nor do I anticipate we'll ever have that issue. So it's a win-win situation for everyone.
And just thank you for the ride along that we did some time ago, but I got a list that's probably going to double your right-of-way mowing. So just want to put you on notice.
We look forward to it.
Anything else from my colleagues? Thank you again, Commissioner Wiggins.
Thank you.
For the good of the order, is there any announcements from my colleagues?
Mr. Chair, just a quick announcement. Just want to let the city of Baltimore know that our prayers and concerns are out with them considering the bridge collapse that happened overnight. So just want to publicly state that as well.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you for that. Anything else from my colleagues? I stand in solidarity with that. Meeting adjourned.